Hey guys, I know it's been a while since I've done a photo editing tutorial.
Yeah, like 4 months.
So yeah, today we're going to be learning the best and fastest ways to edit your astrophotography. So before we get started editing, here are a few tips for shooting astrophotography. Number 1, for the majority of astrophotography, the wider the lens, the better. A wide lens will get more of the night sky in the shot. Number 2, keep the horizon line or something fixed in the photo for frame of reference. Photos of just stars can appear confusing. Number 3, with most cameras, shooting with your ISO at 3200 or higher will introduce noise in the photo. Number 4, when deciding how long to open your shutter, you can use the 500 rule. You take 500 divided by your focal length, and this will give you the maximum length of time before you start to see star trails. Alright, so I want to give a big shout out to my friend Sam for sending me a few of his astro photos for me to edit. I'm currently on the road at the moment and don't have access to any of my photos. I'll put the link to his Instagram in the description if you want to check out some of his awesome astrophotography. So for these photos, the focal length is 35 millimeters and the shutter speed is 13 seconds. The 500 rule was adhered to avoiding the star trails. You'll notice the ISO is quite high in these photos, 8,000, 12,000, and 32,000. There will be some noise in the photos, but we'll just reduce it in post. I will also mention that these photos were shot on a Sony Alpha camera, which leads the industry in low light performance. Alright, so here we go. We're going to work on this photo. And now I like to have my screen as big as possible. So I hit tab and I only use the right bar because that's all I'll need. I'm not setting any presets for this photo. I'm going to start from scratch. So when dealing with star photos, we want to make the stars pop as much as possible. So I'm going to make my adjustments accordingly, making the whites whiter, the darks darker. I also like to bring out my adjustment bar so I have greater flexibility in my sliders. Alright, that photo is just a bit blue still, so I'll bring it down and increase the saturation. And now I'll head down to my tone curve. Making 3 points on the tone curve, I'm going to bring down the darks and raise the whites to further the contrast in the photo. Next, I'm going to head down to sharpening. Now I want to sharpen the photo without increasing noise. So this way I mask out the dark areas by holding Alt and dragging that masking bar. That will only sharpen the highlights of the photo. Okay, next I'm going to grab a new brush, bring down the shadows, up the flow, and I'm going to draw over the areas of the Milky Way that are already dark. That's another way to increase the contrast that's happening in the Milky Way. Okay, I'm going to select another new brush. I'm going to reduce the flow or opacity, select the mask overlay, and paint over the Milky Way nice and gradually. To remove some of the selected area, you can hold Alt, and that will remove some of that area you've already selected. Okay, now I'm going to increase the contrast again, slightly increase the exposure. Now here's what I want you to notice. I'm going to click on this color box. I'm going to colorize the Milky Way here. By selecting the lower third, I'm going to put a bit of color into it. Now if you select some of the orange tones, I personally like that tone the best, and that looks good to me. So now I'm going to head down to the hue, make the blues slightly teal because I just personally think that looks nice. So you can see here the noise in the photo, but by dragging that noise reduction bar, that's where we can reduce some of that excess noise. Now head down and put a bit of a vignette on the photo. Alright, now I'm going to select the graduated filter. On the bottom there are some details that we can't see, so I'm going to raise the exposure, raise up the shadows. It's still very blue, so I'm going to bring down the saturation, and there's a lot of noise down there, so I'm going to lower the clarity to smooth that out. But a bit of contrast, bring down the clarity a bit more, and there we go. Okay, you can see some of the city lights that are a bit too bright, so I'm going to select a new brush, bring down the highlights, and just paint over those areas to bring down the brightness of those city lights. Okay, so now we want to view our photo, so we hit L, That will make the photo 80% dim, so we can still use our adjustment sliders. Hit L again for fully black. Hit Y for a side-by-side look. Hit backslash for the before and after. Alright, let's select another photo, and I'm going to go through this very fast just to review the steps we've already gone over. So you'll notice this is our very bright photo, so we're not going to raise the brights as high as we normally do. We're going to begin by contrasting the photo, bump the clarity, the saturation, and adjust the white balance to your preference. Then heading down to the tone curve, mask sharpen, reduce the noise, make the black parts of the Milky Way even darker. Then we're going to use a brush tool to select the Milky Way. Then colorize the Milky Way with a light orange tone. Then check the before and afters, and that's it.
Alright, that wraps it up for today's video. I promise it won't be another 4 months until the next Lightroom tutorial. So, if you enjoyed today's video or learned something new, then give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you aren't already, and ding that bell if you want to be on the notification squad. Peace.